all three readings today focus on God's will, doing God's will. In the first reading we hear in Hebrews, as it is written of me in the scroll, behold, I come to do your will. And then these are offered according to the law, but then he says, behold, I come to do your will. By this will we have been consecrated, or in another translation, sanctified, that we are made holy through the offering of the body of Jesus Christ, once for all. Behold, I come to do your will. Jesus did the will of God perfectly. Then in the psalm that was quoted, here am I, Lord, I come to do your will. Who are my mother and my brothers? Here are my mother and my brothers. For whoever does the will of God is my brother and sister and mother. That we come to God by doing His will. And a lot of times we might think of this as saying, Jesus might be, lowering His mother. But really, obviously, He's recognizing she is the one who followed God's will most perfectly of all human persons. She, more than any of us, followed God's will. And the beautiful thing is, it's not that He's lowering her, but rather He's raising us up to her. That by doing God's will, we are raised up to become Christ's mother and sister and brother. This incredible gift of this relationship with Almighty God. Now, how do we do God's will? A lot of times we can try to look and say, okay, what's God's will for my life? And we look over the grand scheme, am I supposed to buy this house? Am I supposed to do this, do that? These big things that we look at instead of really the small. St. Francis de Sales, whose feast day it is today, was a spiritual master, doctor of the church, focused on making sure that we follow our vocation. He talked about spirituality for where you're at. So if you're a married person with young children, you can't be living your life, your spiritual life, as if you were a cloistered nun. It just doesn't make sense. And to try to live your life like you're a cloistered nun, in terms of the time spent in prayer and all that stuff, would be a sin. Because you're now neglecting your duties as a married person and as a parent. And so St. Francis de Sales was really focused on, look, what is your vocation? Live out your spirituality in your vocation. And so we live out God's will, yes, in the grand scheme of things, but very often we don't see that. And let's be honest, how often do we have these large things we have to say yes to from Almighty God? Most often it's in the small, dare I say, the mundane and boring choices of our life. For me, for instance, it's in that choice to say, okay, I have to go and answer emails. That's boring. But part of that is my vocation, because that's how people reach out to me. Now, I could spend too much time on that, but still, that's part of my following God's will for my life. These little things. And I've said this before, but it's doing little things with great love. This is where we find God's will for our lives. And too often we go around, a lot of the young adults are saying, Father, I'm trying to find where God is leading me. And they're thinking about marriage or religious life or priesthood or whatever. And too often they're looking at the grand scheme instead of saying, they don't like it when I say, but what is God asking you to do here and now today? Yeah, but Father, I want to find love. Yeah, don't we all? But you will find God's will for your life in the overarching scheme only by doing the yes to Him in this moment, right now. Or as Matthew Kelly puts it in about those holy moments, making this moment holy, gift to God. May we, through the intercession of St. Francis de Sales, do God's will for our life, the will that is for our lives right here in front of me. in this moment, in the mundane, in the small, in the struggles, in the trials.